Welcome to the Your Leadership Legacy podcast. My name is Tina Paulus Kraus, and I'm so excited to bring you this next podcast dedicated to you high performers out there who want to reinvent yourself, reinvent your business, maybe your career, all of it. This podcast is all about being dedicated to transformation and being the best possible leader of yourself and others that you can be in order to create a legacy that lives on. Welcome to Your Leadership Legacy. My name is Tina Paulus Kraus. I am the founder and CEO of True You Teams. And here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Your Leadership Legacy. My name is Tina Paulus Kraus, and today we have Shelley Brown with us today. Hi, Shelley.
Hi, Tina.
I'm so excited to have you on today. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna quick read your bio, and then I want you to introduce yourself and tell everyone about who you are, because you are an amazing individual. I can't wait for people to know who you are. So let me read this. Shelley Brown is a Baltimore-based mindfulness speaker, live virtual workshop facilitator, and the founder of ROIMindfulness. I can't wait to hear more about that. She facilitates workshops around the United States with leaders, executive committee to frontline managers from a variety of industries. As a corporate veteran, Shelley's mission is to make the invitation to the practice as accessible and inclusive as possible. Her practical approach appeals to seasoned practitioners, those who may be exploring the practice, as well as skeptics. Shelley engages in a disciplined personal mindfulness practice that she marries the foundations of mindfulness with essential leadership training to help everyone cultivate the skills that are most needed, both personally and professionally, including self-awareness and emotional intelligence. So I love you, Shelley, because you speak my language. So if you could just introduce yourself and tell people about who you are, that would be amazing.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here, especially given the mission of your organization. It definitely mirrors what I'm all about. And I guess if you would ask me who I am, the reality is I'm a human being living in an exterior skin. But
Right.
more than that, I am just an integrated human being who really intentionally lives walking in the truth of my own values as best as I can every single day. And I am also somebody who really finds that compassion is an enormous driver of everything I do, compassion for others. And it also starts out with self-compassion. I'm a mindfulness practitioner who really cares about the whole integrated human being. And I see a lot of siloing going on of leaders and work life and home life and all that stuff. And I think we're recognizing right now
It doesn't work.
Exactly. We're just human beings doing this life thing as best we can.
Right, absolutely. So what took you into, I have so many questions for you, but the first one is, what took you into this work? Like, how did you actually get into this work?
I'd like to say that I was some enlightened yogi, and it's so not true. I came to this work through a nervous breakdown in the corporate world. Actually, I'll backtrack a little bit. About 9 years ago, I had been actually not even 9 years ago, about 7 years ago, I'd been an ultra runner. And running was something that mitigated a lot of my stress, but didn't really do that great of a job. It did it while I was running. And so I ran a lot of ultra marathons, and ultimately my vertebrae collapsed going down the nerves of my leg. And so I went through about a year and a half of chronic pain, and it catapulted my already high energy into this fight or flight stress response.
Right.
And even though I got better, I would get a job and just be sort of so stressed out and anxious about everything. And then I'd get another job and the same thing would happen over and over again. And I was like, okay, this is who I am. I'm just this stressed out person that just can't navigate through life in a really balanced way. But I found out by somebody who said the most important thing I ever heard, which is this is not in your head. This is a physiological response that's happening. And I started an 8-week mindfulness-based stress reduction program. It transformed my life so much that I decided I had to learn to bring this practice to other people. So I studied with a couple of different former monks who do corporate work, corporate mindfulness work, and I continue to take courses and do retreats and read and read and read and consume and practice my own practice so that I can invite other people to this.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about practicing your own practice, right? Like, and the process that it took you as you were really learning mindfulness. Because I have a lot of people that I've worked with that are like, I can't, my mind is, I can't calm down. I can't stop thinking, right? So talk about the process that you went through to go from this person who was anxiety, you were filled with anxiety and it just something to how mindfulness really helped you curb that and figure that out.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So mindfulness is simply being here now.
Mm.
Meditation is the formal practice. So is what meditation is to mindfulness, what exercise is to fitness.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
So how I started out was I did meditate and I was skeptical. I thought it was for tea drinking yogis, not like ultra marathon type A people.
Yeah.
I literally did. But you know what? I tell people all the time, call it mental fitness, call it awareness training, call it attention training. You don't have to call it meditation if you feel weird about that.
Yeah.
And so I thought that it was weird until I understood that in order to practice that muscle of noticing when your mind has wandered into fear, worry, regret, remorse, the trances that we get into, until I realized that meditation is really working out your noticing muscle. I didn't get it until I started practicing it and was able to literally learn how to bear witness to my thoughts like I was watching them rather than reacting to them right away. And then practicing mindfulness in everything. I think the meditation is really fundamental for me to practice that awareness muscle, that noticing muscle. So now when I am in situations, I can actually see what I'm thinking. I can actually be present when I'm listening, and I can actually be very intentional about my response to everything that's happening. And I'm not perfect at it.
Yeah. But it comes easier as you practice, right? How is it helped you? So let's kind of move into the virus and what's going on with the pandemic. How has it helped you during these times?
Yeah, so it's interesting. The word that comes up for me all the time is impermanence.
Okay.
If you were to stop every hour and check in with yourself in terms of, am I feeling, is the feeling I'm having, what's the feeling I'm having right now? Is it pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? All day long, if you checked in with yourself each hour, you would notice that you weren't feeling the same every single hour.
Right.
And that lesson was something that I really learned when I went through my injury, because for a year I spent in chronic pain. You have the pain, but then you have the suffering. Suffering, they say, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. And what that means is I had this horrible pain, but my thoughts were, this is going to be forever. This is the worst thing that has ever happened. I will never be okay again. I will never be happy again. I'll never experience joy again. And I feel like that experience has helped me greatly in this experience, because the pain is here. The virus is here. That is the real pain that we can't do anything about. So that is inevitable. The suffering, the experience of it, is the only thing that we have any power over. So, let's say the worst case scenario, this never ended. We do have the choice to change the experience of it. We do.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that I don't hold a huge space of compassion for people who are ill, for people whose family members are ill, for people who have lost their jobs, and for people who are struggling with this.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love how you just worded that, because the idea is that you can have both, kind of, right? Like, if I choose to sit over here and be doomsday, everything's terrible, I'm worried only about me, and I'm in that mindset, it doesn't open up the compassion. I can't open up to compassion and choice. And when I'm in the other side of being in compassion and choice, now I can help support others. Not only can I take care of myself and not feel like I'm constantly down, but I can help and take care of others. And so what I'm hearing you say is that a lot of this is choice.
That is the operative word.
Yeah.
When we can learn to bear witness to our thoughts, we have choice, and choice is freedom.
Yeah. Choice
This
is
is
such freedom.
absolutely freedom. And I do like the fact that you brought up self-compassion as the gateway to compassion.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I think, even in the work world, I talk about what is compassion, because I think that a lot of people think it's sunshine, flowers, and hugs. And that's not what it is. It's recognizing our common humanity.
Hmm.
And how that plays out in the workplace is that it's being able to have difficult conversations, recognizing that this is another human being without taking the emotion into it,
Yeah.
even if it's a difficult conversation. And it's the ability to come into agreements with accountability and things like that. That's what compassion is.
Yeah.
It's not empathy. I mean, empathy is really important.
Hmm.
Compassion allows us to navigate through all kinds of situations, recognizing the humanness of
Yeah.
another person.
Yeah, I love that. I want to talk about, I love that you brought up teams, and I love that you brought up the workplace, right? Because we talked about that a little bit before we went live. And so I want to kind of dive into that a little bit and add where we're at with the pandemic. So in the workplace, in teams, in most areas of the country right now, non-essential, anyone who's not essential, we're at home, we're in self-isolation, and we're really practicing this social distancing. And so there was already this feel in corporate that things were changing, right? The future of work was a big topic. Everybody was really kind of trying to adjust their business models and move towards the future of work, and remodel teams and everything like that. So how does mindfulness and meditation and the practice of self-compassion, now that we're going through this virus, what do you think on the other end of it? How is this going to affect business and teams in the future of work?
Mhm. That's such a great question. And if looked at the research, what's the number one struggle that companies face, in its engagement,
Hmm.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, I don't remember the statistic, if it was like 37% of employees feel disengaged at work.
I think it's actually more like in the 60s. It's like, it's super high. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So um, I think that this is really to a call to action in terms of engaging people on the human level. And I think that smart companies that haven't, well, actually all companies that, I'll take that back. Companies that are still working and still have sales teams have a great opportunity here to elevate the human being that is that is helping them meet their business objectives, right?
Right.
So meeting people on the human level and engaging with the humanity with compassion.
Mm.
I mean, people are separate, but that doesn't mean that we don't come together on Zoom meetings
Right.
and meetings. And if people aren't doing this, they absolutely, I don't know what's wrong that they're not, but really checking in with the human being.
Yeah.
and being compassionate and holding space and allowing people space. You're getting to see people beyond their roles. You're seeing kids walk by on Zoom. You're seeing animals and cats. You're having people interrupted, and you're seeing people beyond their task, beyond their widget in helping you achieve your goal.
Yeah, it's great, right? Like, I mean, I think that there are all these systems and all these things in place in business that have we just kind of kept on being like that because it's the way it's always been. But how amazing is it if we go into the future of work or after this virus and we go into back to our normal, which there's never going to be a normal again, but we go back to like we can go out of the house again and like what in your opinion is going to be different now when we go back to that? Because I think that companies right now are really having to really figure out how to, if I'm a leader of a team and we've been eyeball to eyeball every day for how many years, and now all of a sudden I'm trying to build connection with you over Zoom, there's some leadership skills there that are up leveling and upskilling that many leaders don't have, are really, I don't know, they don't have, they're trying to figure them out. So how do we really move into that once all this is over?
Yeah, unfortunately, some won't.
Yeah.
You know, but the beauty is that more will. So
Yeah.
it's more of the glass, it's more of the glass half full, it's
Mhm.
so I think a lot of people will come out of this or transition. I don't think it's like a coming out,
Right,
I
it'll transition.
slow evolution.
Mhm.
There may be teams that continue to work more remote now, and things will look different. And I don't really like to speculate on what it will look like from a logistic standpoint, but what I like to think about is what it'll look like from a humanities
Right.
standpoint.
Yep.
And I do feel that people will be much more intentional. A lot of people will be much more intentional. And I think that a lot of people went into what I call creativity mode.
Mhm.
So creativity meaning we've got to create something to keep people doing and come to this group and follow my gratitude column. It's just like been a flurry of activity
There's
and
a lot of free content out there right now.
a lot of free content, and yet the most innovation and the most creativity happens when we open up the space for it and the possibilities. And to me, that requires backing off,
Yeah.
being quiet, contemplating, and being very, very intentional.
Mhm. About
Because
how we move forward, right?
yeah, everything else, the way we've managed in the past has been very reactionary
Mhm.
or very prescriptive. And some of the most incredible things have happened when we open up space for innovation and creativity. And I think that this situation is providing the elements for people to be really contemplative,
Mhm.
really be thoughtful and intentional. That's my hope.
Yeah. Yeah. What has been your biggest leadership lesson through this?
Wow, my biggest leadership lesson has been really I've been involved with a lot of companies that want to bring tools to people to help them on a human level to navigate through a difficult time. So obviously that's the work I do. So when I've reached out to people who have been open to that, I haven't had anybody close the door
Yeah.
on the invitation to explore this if it
Mhm.
could possibly be helpful to anybody.
Shelley, why isn't it in corporate right now? In schools, like in schools too. And I get that we're starting to get some of the mindfulness and meditation curriculum into like the lower grades and stuff like that. But when we think about business in general, and when we think about our school systems, and I mean, because I've been on this journey about 5 years now, where I really started digging in and really working on my own self leadership. And I've said, I don't even know how many times, my goodness, if I would have had these tools years and years ago, like how much of a difference that would have made. So my question is, why aren't we doing that yet?
That's a great question. And the answer is kind of funny. As mainstream as mindfulness is,
Mm.
with the apps and Headspace and all these different apps. If you ask people what mindfulness, do they practice mindfulness? You'll get, oh yeah, I use such and such app to fall asleep. And I think that almost every time I talk about mindfulness, I still have to demystify it. And
Right.
to me, mindfulness is being a badass of your awareness. It is not about falling asleep. To me, mindfulness, we practice it so that we could show up better for other people. Nobody cares if you're calm.
Yeah.
Nobody cares if you can fall asleep at night. Maybe your spouse, maybe your partner, maybe your kids do, because maybe
Yeah.
you're happy, but nobody really, it doesn't really matter. What really matters is mindfulness is foundational for cultivating self-awareness,
Mm-hmm.
is key to emotional intelligence. And so the answer is people don't know what it is.
Right. I
And so
totally agree.
one day I may start a workshop without having to demystify it, but people really don't know.
Yeah. And it's crazy because there's such amazing tools. And, the whole thing about mindfulness and meditation is there's so much noise going on in our daily day to day right now, right? Whether the virus is here or not, there's just noise, noise, noise. And we go through the life, just check off, checking off our whole day. We don't ever take the time and space just to go internal. And so how I like to demystify it is when you open up to mindfulness and you open up to letting all the noise go, that's when all the beautiful stuff comes in, right? Like that's when some of my best ideas and best like possibilities and best just thinking and thought processes that have happened is when I just shut out the noise and shut out the world that just comes at us constantly. So my question, oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, unfortunately, though, a lot of the noise is internal. And so there's always going to be external noise.
Mhm.
It is, and there's so much internal noise. The biggest distractions are the ones between our ears.
Yes.
It is, I can't be happy right now because this sucks. I cannot be happy with what's happening right now. Or I will be happy when? I'll be happy when things go back to normal. I'll be happy when I can go outside. I'll be happy when I can meet with my friends. We cannot find joy and equanimity in what's happening right now. Or we're numbing out because we just can't deal with it. So we're shoving food, we're drinking. Liquor sales have been like skyrocketing through this. People don't want to deal with it. So I don't even think the external distractions are as bad as the internal, because the internal are always going to be there.
Right.
And so the practice of mindfulness allows us to notice and keep on coming back to the object of the present, whatever that is.
Yeah. So how do you train people? What advice do you give people? If I'm somebody who's listening to this and I'm like, hear what you guys are saying, but I just don't know how to quiet this monkey mind, right?
Mhm.
Like, what advice do you start off with people?
Yeah, I think one of the things and thanks for mentioning the monkey man. I think, some of the things I do is talk about why people don't meditate. And the biggest reason is because I can't shut off my mind. And
Yeah.
I say, congratulations, you're alive.
Yeah. Right.
Not alive, that's when your mind will stop, right? And then people say they don't want to sit. All right, stand up, walk, lay down. The intention is to come into presence. The intention isn't to fall asleep, but you don't have to sit down and do it. The other thing is, I don't have time. Start with 5 minutes or take micro mindfulness breaks. Use your smartphone to set a notification to take 4 deep breaths in a minute's time. I'm a true believer in meditation, and the research does show that in 8 weeks, 20 minutes of meditation, that is when the brain can change. And that is when people who might be catapulted into this crazy stress response can kind of reset that wiring.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people, unfortunately, because of the stress that's going on, could be thrown into that sympathetic nervous system response. So I really recommend to try to build up the meditation practice slowly, to do it with kindness and gentleness without judging yourself, because your mind is going to think, and it is hard. But you know what? Working out isn't always easy, but we know that it's good for us.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. So what advice would you give somebody then that is like, they're going through this and they want to start and they're ready to go. Are there apps out there? Are there, what resources are out there for people?
Yep, for sure. So right now there are so many Zoom groups where you can do live meditations. Go to tricycle.org, go to mindful.org, look up live meditations on Google, and you will find a million that are free right now. Besides that, 10% is a great one, especially if you're like a skeptic and think it's all weird. And then the apps, Insight Timer, 10% app, Headspace. There's a lot of great apps out there, and they can help you build up from a really short increment of time. And I think the biggest advice is don't expect yourself to sit for an hour.
No.
Can you manage 5 minutes? Chances are probably it may be hard, but then build up slowly.
Yeah, that's great. So the name of the podcast is Your Leadership Legacy. And so my last question that I ask everyone is, what leadership legacy is it that you are aspiring to leave?
My leadership legacy is really to invite as many people as I can to cultivate this practice, knowing that when we give our presence, not only to ourselves, but to others, there's no greater gift that we can give.
That's beautiful. I even just think about a time when somebody was just completely listening and present for you and attentive. Like, it feels so good when other people do it for us and we have the opportunity to give that back, right?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So beautiful. So where can people find you?
Sure. So I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me at Shelley Brown, Shelley Brown at ROIMindfulness. Stands for Real Observations and Insights, ROIMindfulness.com, and my website is ROIMindfulness.com as well.
Awesome. Beautiful. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on today. I had not met you before, and I think you are amazing. You are this beautiful love of life, and you're just helping so many people come to center with themselves. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Tina. It's been a beautiful honor.
Awesome. All right, you guys, that ends our episode this time with Shelley Brown. Come back next time. We will see you soon. Thanks, everyone. You bet. Bye-bye.
My name is Tina Paulus-Krause, and I thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. Check out our programs and events at trueyouteams.com. And until next time, make it an amazing day.